Hello, my name is Christian Montel, and this is a new episode of Artificial Intelligence in Human Resource Applications. A warm welcome to a new episode. In the previous episode, I had a nice chat with Professor Dragoș Iliescu, where he explained some major challenges to companies which want to introduce AI support into their human resource applications. He gave some examples of what he considered promising applications of artificial intelligence and also mentioned some ethical challenges to using AI or even introducing AI for a company. Today, I'm going to have the pleasure to talk to Larissa Pomrehn about some very late research outcomes on artificial intelligence. We will be talking about how to understand your customer's point of view, and this greatly differs between applicants, employees, and human resource professionals. We also will talk about some aspects to be aware of if you want to build, shape, or maintain your employer brand, and also talk about the typical challenges which usually involve to define what actually the right thing is you want to teach your artificial intelligence. So let's get to it. Please let me introduce our today's special guest, Larissa Pomrehn. And first of all, allow me to apologize for some audio and video glitches which might have happened during the recording. I'm very sorry. So let's get to it anyway. Hello, Larissa. So pleased to have you here. Could you introduce yourself to our viewers and elaborate a bit on your research background, please?
Hi, Christian. Thanks for having me today. Sure, I can tell a bit about myself. I'm Larissa Pomrehn, and I'm working as a PhD student at the Heinrich-Heine University at the Professorship of Business Administration, especially Digital Management and Digital Work. And I've been doing that for around 1.5 years now. And I've studied international management in my bachelor's, focused more on software and technological tools because AI was actually not that around yet. Then in my master's, I focused more on business administration as a whole and human resource management as a subcategory of that. And now in my PhD, I'm combining both of these things together. So now AI in human resource management, and I'm looking at various different things in my PhD time. One being how AI is perceived and reacted to by different stakeholders. So for example, applicants or employees, or also HR professionals, and how they use, interact, react to these different types of AI tools that are currently out there. I'm also focusing on entrepreneurship, so entrepreneurs and founders and how they interact with AI, as we see that AI usage and interpretation is very context specific. So that's why I'm focusing on different types of contexts. I'm very pleased to be here today and share a bit about the research and delve a little bit deeper about what we do in particular.
That sounds very interesting. May I ask you to elaborate on the major application settings you're focusing on?
Sure, let's maybe do the major 3 settings in more detail. So the first one being is that we differentiate on the level of type of stakeholder. So we have either applicants, employees, or HR professionals that are affected by AI and human resource management. And on first glance, you might think, why are those different? Because in the end, they're all interacting or using AI in some sense. But actually, we see that applicants and employees are, as a subgroup, just are affected by the final decision that the AI makes. And HR professionals, on the hand, they use in particular, they interact with it maybe on the daily, maybe weekly, and then we see that the expectations they have towards this AI tool are very different. The second one is that we differentiate between the level of personal impact. So am I personally affected by a decision, or are others maybe affected by the decision, or even do I make decisions for others? And this is very different in all cases, because when I'm personally affected, I might have different expectations about AI than when others are affected, and I can maybe go about my day very differently, just like, okay, a decision was made, but it was not about me, it's fine for me. And the third one being is that we delve a little bit deeper about HR professionals and how they use and interact with AI on a deeper level. So how they use it on the daily, on the weekly, and which expectations they have, which emotions are evoked, which reactions they feel. And that goes along with some long and short-term outcomes that are evolved in the process, so that, yeah, in the interaction with AI that they develop. And yeah, I can go maybe a little bit deeper into these three different application areas in detail now. But let's do that. For the first one, we have the different type of stakeholder, as I already mentioned, and applicants and employees group. Maybe to give an example, we have AI in screening, resume screening, or AI in asynchronous interviews within the application scenarios. And applicants are directly affected by a decision that is made. So a decision is made that they go along further in the process or not. They receive an email saying, well, AI decided this or that. And then they have no particular interaction with the system. They're just receiving the decision outcome. Same with employees, right? They receive performance evaluation that is maybe supported with AI, or training outcomes, or we also look at allocating work tasks in particular. So it decides which tasks for the day are made for which type of person. And we see then again, they are just affected by the outcome. They don't interact with the system on a deep level. HR professionals, however, they are a type of user. They use the system on the daily or weekly, and then they know a lot more about the system because they use it more. They know about the intricacies of the algorithm. Can be good or bad, right? If the system is not so good, they might know exactly, oh, this is where the system is faulty. But can also be good because they can complement this type of faultiness, because okay, this is where my in, and then we have a complementary system that works together. So they maybe see it more as a colleague or partner rather than something that makes a decision and just, focuses on making this decision alone. And then going to the second part, level of personal effectiveness, think about, well, you read a newspaper in the morning and you read about maybe Amazon using AI in the recruiting process. You read about it, you close your newspaper and you go about your day. You're not personally affected by this. However, if you actually go to Amazon and apply now, then you are affected by the AI decision. And now it seems like a really bad thing, right? Because now the decision is made about you. And this is where we see a difference, that in one case, we prefer overall fairness so that it is treated fairly, but the individual outcome is not as important. But when I'm actually in the process, I more care about my decision. I don't care about if the decision was made super fairly or not. I just want to be recruited by Amazon. I don't really care so much about others and how their process was. And in the end, I just care about my outcome. And this is where the personal impact comes in. And lastly, for HR professionals, like I said, they use AI as a user. Users have a lot more different expectations, as they know a lot more about AI than just an applicant or employee who just receives the decision outcome, right? They see daily how the decision is made. They know the intricacies of the system, the functionalities, and can complement this type of system. They also have a long-term perspective, right? Because an applicant or an employee has a one-time decision outcome, but a professional has a long-term perspective, so maybe builds a type of relationship with the system rather than having one decision made and it's done. And this is their perceptions. So on the long term, we see that they perceive it a lot better. And yeah, that's why they are different compared to applicants and employees as a subgroup.
Many employers find the idea of using AI support in their recruiting processes very appealing, and they want at the same time to keep or maintain a very strong employer brand. And that's why I'd like to turn towards the applicants or employees' perspective for a moment and stay there for a bit. So, what is your advice? What aspects should we keep in mind if we want to design an attractive recruiting process which has AI support?
Yes, sure. Let's talk about it. So when we dive deeper into the applicant or employee perspective, like I said before, these are the people that are personally affected by decisions normally.
Okay.
So that's why we find that people perceive them as rather negatively, right? So what does that mean in particular for organizations? We and also previous literature found that they perceive it as less fair, less trustworthy, also with higher concerns about privacy. So they feel that the AI is somehow invading their privacy,
Okay.
and they also feel that it's more creepy. First, maybe a funny word to say, but it's actually quite fitting, I feel, to describe this feeling we have when interacting with an AI, because we cannot quite grasp what's happening. We're not interacting with a human, so other processes are in place, and we feel
Okay,
that we might be
so that's
cautious.
perceived as creepy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that's what actually our studies found. So it is creepier when AI is introduced compared to when only a human makes the decision.
Okay.
Yeah, and we can go into more details. So, like I said, overall, it is perceived less fair, so more negative. But this is not always the case, right? So we can see that depending on the context where the AI is applied in, we see that these perceptions change a little bit. And organizations and also HR managers can use these findings to, maybe use AI in the place where it's perceived the best. That would be
Okay.
ideal, right?
But
So
just to
yeah.
sum it up, in general, it is perceived in a negative way. So it's not a good thing if an employer uses AI out of the applicant's perspective, but it's kind of a bad thing. It makes them feel like a bit less comfortable and so on.
Yes,
Okay.
this is a phenomenon we call algorithm aversion. So that people are, yeah, averse to the algorithm, and we find that in almost all of our studies, that this is somehow always the case. Even when we find contexts where it's perceived a little bit more positively, it's still negative. It's still worse than the human decision. So we have
Is this just a
problems.
masked version of saying they are afraid of the algorithm?
Somehow the
Okay.
level of afraid changes, though. It's not always the same level. So we have sometimes we're really afraid, I don't want this at all. And sometimes we have levels where it's a bit uncomfortable, but it's still okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, could
And
you elaborate on this? Because this sounds like this is the part where exploring it in more detail could actually help.
yeah, sure. Yeah, for example, when we talk about, because we're talking about applicants, right? We see that in recruiting, we can use AI either for resume screening or for asynchronous interviews. That are the two most used things for AI introduction. And when we separate them and say, okay, AI is only used in resume screening or AI is only used in asynchronous interviews, we find that in asynchronous interviews, the applicants perceive it more negatively. And you might
Could you
think,
help our viewers for just for a moment? Could you help
mhm,
our viewers understand what asynchronous interviews actually are? How does this happen? What is this in detail?
sure, sure. So maybe start with resume screening as well, because that might also be difficult for some. So when you apply for a company, you normally have to put in your CV, your resume in like PDF form or something. And then an AI is used and goes over all of the words you've written and decides, because the organization set some type of criteria before that they find interesting, and then the AI searches for these types of criteria in the resume. Might be words, might be phrases, might be years of experience, or that changes depending on the context.
Okay.
Yeah, and for asynchronous interviews, the AI is used to have the interview. So you don't have a face-to-face interview anymore. You
Okay.
talk to and interact with an AI. You get the questions from an AI and you answer online, virtually. Yes?
And are you talking to a kind of avatar, a robot, or do you just read the questions and you have to reply to it, say, into the thin air?
That depends on how the organization is designing this process. But in the beginning, we saw a lot that is just the question that's written and you have to answer it. But nowadays, people try to make it a little bit more fun, a bit more interactive, that these negative perceptions are lifted a little bit to the positive side.
I see.
But you get a question somehow that it's spoken to you, written to you, and you have to answer via a video, and the video is recorded and then afterwards analyzed. So the AI goes through all of what you've said. It's again about phrases, words, but this time also your mimic, your gestures. Do you smile a lot? Do you not smile a lot? This also sparked some controversy because some people just smiled throughout the whole question, and AI was like, that's a great person, such a positive person. So there's also ways to trick the system already.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the baseline of how asynchronous interviews work.
Okay.
Normally, it's followed with a personal interview as well. So organizations will not just have the AI interview and then you will be recruited or not. It's normally getting to know the team, the managers as well, right, as an additional interview. But the AI makes like the first decision of who's coming or getting through the next round, so to say.
That indeed sounds a bit scary, actually, to just give a direct feedback. To me, it appears like, oh my gosh, I'm doing some recording and there's some robot doing something with it, and afterwards I'm judged. That doesn't make me feel comfortable at all.
Yeah, and that's what we found in the studies as well, that the asynchronous part is perceived a lot more negatively. We also have a rationale for this that describes very well why this is the case.
Okay.
So for example, when we have more tasks that are more mechanical or decision components that are more analytical, right? Like resume screening, we feel like, okay, we have phrases that match to other phrases that the organization is looking for. This seems more like a mechanical tasks.
Okay.
But when we are in asynchronous interviews, there's a lot more intuitive decision components at play, right? So when we talk to a person, we see their face as well. We get feedback directly. Do they understand what I'm saying? Do they have questions? Are they bored? Are they looking away all the time? We have direct feedback. And also, this person that is judging me is taking these emotional components in for their decision as well. So am I sympathetic to them? Do they feel like they like me or something like this?
And allow me to ask, what criterion teaches the AI what is a good, a likable, a positive way of reacting towards a question or something? Because I'm curious. I wonder where is some ultimate criterion telling me that, yeah, if this guy or girl smiles all the time, then it's a good thing, and if he or she looks angry or like thoughtful or something, that this indicates whatever. What is the criterion? What's the say? What tells the AI what's right or to be judged positively?
Yeah, that's exactly a little bit of the problem, right? Because we
Okay.
have to get these emotions or these intuitive emotional processes that the HR manager has while being in an interview, and we have to give them to AI and have to manually decide this is good and this is bad. And this is where a little bit of the problem comes in because, like I said before, some developers said smiling is positive, has a
Yeah.
positive attitude. This person is very likable. But then again, like I said, if you do it overly too much, if I smile at you all the time in this interview, you'll be a bit confused and be like, what is she doing? But the AI has not this notion of the level of where it maybe is weird again, it just has the algorithm just says smiling good, and the more you do it, the better, and that's what the algorithm does.
That sounds like a
So
very naive approach in a way, like a kid who mimics
exactly.
everything the parents do without being aware of, say, moral layers to it, or some ethical layers or something. It just mimics what is shown to him or her.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
The wish, of course, is that it learns by itself in the future and that it gets better by itself. Because when you have the decision, the person is perceived very likable, AI says, great, let's get into the next round. And then this person is interviewed personally, and then they feel like, no, it's not a fit for us. You can give this data back to the AI. And once this happens over and over again, AI learns maybe overly positive people are not fitting in the end, and then it tries to find this human level of where we perceive smiling as positive, learns this. But this takes some time. We cannot just have all of it at once. We have to learn it and train it. Might take some time. That's why in the beginning or some of these algorithms have like scandals, it comes out like something's not working right. And that's because you don't have a lot of basis or data as a basis to train the algorithm. You just have to do it manually a lot of the time. And then it has to learn throughout time to get better and to get to the state where maybe a human is, or hopefully better, because the biases are breaking down that we have towards certain groups of people.
But this actually makes me feel like the question, what is wrong or right, steers towards what kind of model do you provide to the AI to be mimicked afterwards? And that sounds like a very interesting question, because usually out of social say reasons, you don't dig very deep in this kind of discussion when you discuss, for example, whether recruiter A, B, or C is judging people in a fair or unfair way. It sounds like that there is some inhibition when this happens in a usual social context, but this inhibition is not present anymore when you just teach the AI something and are happy that it seems to work for many applicants or something. Does research deal with this kind of problem also?
Yeah, I mean, having found that it's perceived less fair and less trustworthy and all of these things, we sparked the discussion of, it just learns from the data, right? The algorithm just learns of what is there. It doesn't, like, sometimes there's glitches. Of course, it's not always perfect, but most of the time it works with what it has. And working with what it has means it just takes the data that is already there. And now we're talking about how the decisions were made in the past. We had scandals like, I think Amazon had this recruiting AI, and now all the men are recruited. And, the studies showed that it's more white men compared to other groups. And now we say like, oh, the AI is so unethical and it's not fair at all. And that's why people perceive it as less fair now, because of all of these headlines that are coming about now. But in actuality, it's more the recruiting system that was before. Like, there were showingly biases from the recruiters in the past that have created all of these decisions that are now the AI just takes them. They cannot think about, is it good or bad? Is it ethical or not? Just takes it and goes along with it. And this is now the discussion coming about human decision making as well, and how the decision components are complex and how we can break them down so that an AI is really becoming fairer. But research on this is very early, so it's not so much that we have done in this kind of field, but it will come. And it's good I think it's good now that with these types of headlines in the news that we spark the discussion about this, that we have discussions about how ethical is human decision making as well.
Exactly. That's actually what I wanted to know. I don't know if you have an overview over this, but How are the companies actually reacting towards this kind of outcomes? Because one can perceive this outcome as a, say, as an outcome which advises against the use of AI on the one hand, but on the other hand, as you just said, it teaches me what I've been doing wrong before in my recruiting process and where I have to enhance things. And do you have any notion of how companies are actually taking these outcomes? Because I think this is a critical, especially from a social point of view, this is a very critical part.
Yeah, we talk to HR professionals as well in
Okay.
interview settings. So they are actually using the AI in a company setting. And we found that there's hesitance to introduce AI. And when the organization introduced their first tool, maybe AI-based, then they think, okay, it's fine now. We have AI. Like it's a buzzword, we have it introduced. We don't want to take too much in. But that's actually a bit frustrating to the HR professionals because they feel, oh, now I'm actually used to this. I know a lot more about AI. Now I want to use it a lot more, right? And there's a lot of gap what the organization sees as a whole because they're very wary of it because of the headlines and everything. They're more wary because for them, it's first of all a cost thing. They have to give in a lot of costs for this because the AI systems that are currently available are very expensive. And mostly they are not like a comprehensive system. They only are available for one specific process that is then AI based. But it's because we have an HR management, we have all of these systems like Workday or SuccessFactors, where they have the whole employee lifecycle or applicant lifecycle, which is software based. But with AI, we don't have this now. We have the small processes that are adjusted with AI. And I think it's more like a test, to see if it works. If something bad happens, it's still only a small part of the process because organizations are still scared to do the whole thing with AI. But this also comes down to their own organizational culture. If the organization culture is very much based on, being open, being innovative, pushing things through, they're a lot more open to AI as well. And then these things are a little bit different. But what we feel with the more traditional, older companies, bigger companies as well, they are a bit hesitant towards these things. And yeah, also because of applicant and employee reactions, although we see these positive parts of HR professionals as well. So they're a little bit in the trying to find a balance, and I think they are still trying to figure things out and not quite sure what's really happening.
Okay. And the way that you express this so frankly makes me believe that you're not too afraid of too much afraid of any reaction of a big company trying to sue you because you tell all those things or something. Is that right? Or were there any attempts to make you shut up or something about these findings?
No, not at all. I mean, we gathered the interviewees, just asking them on an informal basis, like, do you want to take part in this interview? And they decided on their own terms if they want to participate. And I felt like they were all really open to tell me good and bad sides as well about the introduction of AI. Of course, you are always limited in what you can tell. So this is a limitation in all of our studies. We might not have 100% of the picture. We always might have 80% or something, because I don't know if someone held something back because they were afraid of consequences, right? I'm not, because I take everything that someone says to me as a given, that they are, because they're the medium, they made sure that everything is correct to say out loud. But yeah, I'm never 100% sure if that might be the case.
Thank you very much for your time and your numerous insights. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. Actually, I was wondering, I would love to extend that conversation for a bit more and perhaps do a follow-up on this, because there are so many new insights. Would you like that too?
Yeah, sure. I enjoyed our conversation also very much, and I feel like we still have a few talking points maybe that we can touch upon next time. So I will
Sounds
be very
promising,
open
actually.
to, yeah, I'm very open to talk to you another time.
Okay, then see you next month at the latest, and thank you very much so far.
Yeah, thank you.
In case you got any thoughts, any feedback or pending questions, please send me an email to livestream@eligo.de. I'd very much appreciate your feedback and get in touch with you. Given the episode with Larissa was so much fun, we decided on doing a follow-up which focuses on the points of view of human resource professionals and some behind-the-scene aspects of introducing AI. So please save the date. It's Friday, June 7th, 2024, 14 CET. Please consider signing up at www.eligo.de/livestream to access previous sessions and allow us to keep you updated in advance. Once again, thank you very much for joining me on www.eligo.de/livestream. It was a pleasure having you. May you have a beautiful day.